stream 3.
Awena ila lotu Kaya mukula lotu
We muchiri mushawa mashani Ala wamina wengi Na panchipa tarara Iwe wamina wengi Na panchipa tarara
Noma baby to binyichi Mwasala kusi ya seo Chakalipa wakulekela we mwine ututule wefumu wengi watusha ichichena chafinisha wakulekela we mwine ututule wefumu tutule wefumu wakulekela we mwine ututule ichichena chafina wena chakulisha tutule wakulekela we mwine tutule
umumwakwenda na umfwila kasemo abati umopalipwe anakila kumushini umwejilinga wenkondo halume ya jalo aponye mfuti yawe aya wenda mutende wenda wayimikina tukesa umana
mengi maya ichichena chakalipa wakulekela we mwine ututule wefumu wengi watusha ichichena chafinisha wakulekela we mwine tutule wakulekela we mwine ichichena chafina wena chakulisha tutule wakulekela we mwine.
Good day and welcome to today's program. I'm sorry that we started late. There were just these issues, technical glitches. Remote broadcasting is quite difficult. Issues of power, issues of interconnectivity. But I can confirm that Hon.Robert, popularly known as Bob Sichinga, is in the house. We are hosting him today. He will discuss various issues regarding the state of our economy, the proposed solution that that he has. He provides insights into what the opposition, the Zambia We Want party that he belongs to in the National Council of Leadership. And Honorable Bob Sichinga is a former member of parliament for Isoka, former member of parliament for Kafue. He's also former vice president of the UPND. He's also former minister of commerce and also of agriculture. You remember that he attempted to revive NCZ. So he has an array of experience which we shall draw him in. But first of all, we start with this. There's been a development, and I want to comment on this before I invite Honorable Bob Sichinga. The Constitutional Court in South Africa today passed a ruling in which they stated that the matter in which the Edgar Lungu family had appealed to the court, they refused the application, and they stated that the family should not have appealed directly to the court. There's already a process in the Gauteng High Court, and I think the court is encouraging them to pursue and complete that process. This is a ruling. The Constitutional Court has considered the application for leave to appeal. Leave is permission to appeal directly to the Constitutional Court, and has concluded that no case has been made for a direct appeal. Consequently, leave to appeal must be refused. So the argument that, look, listen to us, this matter is very urgent, we are dissatisfied with the matter in the High Court. The court has said, no, complete that process. And before the Constitutional Court, remember, there are two courts in between. There is a court of appeal of the Supreme Court. Then there is a Supreme Court itself. Then there is a Constitutional Court. So the attempt by the family to go directly to the Constitutional Court, citing human rights issues and their right to be heard, has been refused in this instance. That, look, there is a structure. You are before the Gauteng High Court, exhaust that structure. There is also a court of appeal of the Supreme Court. Then there is a Supreme Court itself. Then there is us, a Constitutional Court. So in layman terms, that's what it means. The Secretary to Cabinet issued this statement. Let me find the video, and then I provide commentary. Then I invite Hon.Robert Sichinga.
The government of the Republic of Zambia has taken note of the Constitutional Court of South Africa's ruling concerning the burial of the sixth President, Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu. On behalf of the government, we want to thank the court for its timely consideration of the matter. While the government respects the court's decision, it remains committed to working with Dr. Lungu's family to reach an arrangement that takes into consideration the family's wishes and interests, but also takes into account the rights of the government. Our position is unchanged. The late president deserves a dignified funeral in keeping with the stature of his office. We want to thank citizens for their understanding at this time and for avoiding inflammatory comments. Now is the time for all of us to keep the Lungu family in our thoughts and prayers as we mourn the loss of the former president. Thank you and God bless you.
Government has initiated talks with the family of former President Edgar Lungu to amicably resolve the matter of his burial. President Hakainde Hichilema says the government team is in South Africa holding discussions with the family.
The most important thing is that we hope to resolve it. Our team is there. They're engaging the family. And any support, Your Honor, we can get from family members such as yourselves would be appreciated to help us put closure to this unfortunate situation.
So two issues there. The Secretary to Cabinet confirming that there's been a development in the Constitutional Court and urging people to remain calm as they engage the family. The President was seen today talking about the matter as well and appealing to the delegation to see how they can help engage with the family, as government has sent a team of a delegation to South Africa to negotiate with the family. This evening, Hon.Robert Makebi Zulu, who's a family spokesperson, issued his own statement. His statement was very clear. We are aware about the intended negotiations. Remember, the family lawyer had told the High Court that they should allow for a room for the family and the state to engage. And Secretary to Cabinet says he's in South Africa for the same engagement. And Hon.Robert Makebi Zulu has said he has since met Hon.Robert Mr. Patrick Kango, who's the Secretary to Cabinet, on the proposed form and structure of the talks. And there is restraint from all of us to restrain ourselves from commenting on this matter. But however, the president was not good. I know they are celebrating 4 years, but he was in Ndola, and he gave literally disparaging remarks, attributing the death of those young people that died when he was going to the police station, like it was done by the president. Yet The people that did that shooting are in jail. They were prosecuted and are in jail. The other remarks by the president that, look, the burial site is Embassy Park. All those statements are going to bring polarization where there should be none. In fact, the President Hakainde Hichilema, should lead in his own directive that Secretary to Cabinet has stated, and the Secretary General of the UPND, where they are saying there should be silence on this matter to allow an atmosphere of negotiation. But if you have social media influencers that support President Hakainde Hichilema going off the hook and insulting the First Lady and the family spokesperson, again we are getting back to where we should not be. There is a long process I need to emphasize. Even if government has won these two cases, the family has an opportunity to go to the Court of Appeal. The family has an opportunity to go to the Supreme Court. The family has an opportunity to go to the Constitutional Court. This standoff can stand for a long time. I think we should call for caution from both sides, responsibility from both sides. However, I have my special guest. I thought I could give those immediate commentary before we start. Let me introduce my guest, Hon.Robert Bob Sichinga. Hon.Robert Bob Sichinga, good evening and welcome to today's program. Sir, you are looking good. I see you are growing a beard. You are growing a beard.
Ambassador Emmanuel, good evening to you, and also good evening to our viewers that have joined us. Again, I would like to join you in apologizing for the late start, but I was here on time, so it is not the fault of this guest. Thank you very much indeed for inviting me. Just to recognize, I think that this is the first time I'm appearing on this broadcast since we lost President Edgar Lungu, and I want to join fellow Zambians in passing our very, very deep condolences to our former First Lady, our sister Esther Lungu, Tasila, Hon.Robert Tasila, and the rest of the family members in the Lungu family. It's a great shame and embarrassment for our country to have gotten this far. All the other things that you've spoken about are very, very painful for those of us who've always been proud that Zambia is a very united country, and people have admired the manner in which we have done the transitions in government. To come to this particular stage, Ambassador Emmanuel, is extremely embarrassing for many of us. And really, how did we ever get to this place that we should be having court cases in another country pertaining to our own affairs in our own country, when we should have been the pride of the people in Southern Africa, whom we helped liberate as a country. We hosted them here. When I lived in Olympia Extension, there were people that were living with there from South Africa. And after helping to birth the majority rule in South Africa, we are here really taking cases, our affairs as a country into South Africa. Is such an embarrassing situation for me personally, and also I think for many Zambians. But also to sympathize with the Lungu family. It's a great pity. If I was the deceased person and this is how my remains were being treated, and I was watching it from heaven, it would make me extremely sad. And it should make every Zambian sad that we should be washing whatever our dirty linen or whatever the differences we had in another country. And I can only imagine how painful it must be for the family to go through this, and we don't even know when this matter may come to a close. So I would like just to pass those statements, Ambassador Mwamba, before we get into the particular discussions. But thank you for having me on the program, and we appreciate your initiative. And I see you are now a refugee across the seas, and you join another guy in this particular matter. So I can only say how sad we are about having come this far. It's a great pity. Zambia has never been this at all.
Thank you, Hon.Robert Bob Sichinga. In this impasse, what do you think could have been done?
Well, first and foremost, let me give you my own views in terms of how I think that it should have been handled. Although we serve in public, although we serve in governments, we are not government trophy. Those of us who serve in government As a former minister, I will be entitled to a burial that the government will support. I don't want my body to be, my remains to be handled this particular way at all. I don't want. I have a family to which I belong, the family that I brought up, the family that God has granted to me. Both my parents, my brothers, my fellow siblings, our sons, our nephews, other family members. I belong to them. I don't belong, I'm not a trophy for the state. I'm not. So if when I die, not if, when I die, I do not want this kind of impasse. I want my family to have the final say about what happens, because they will know what I've wanted. For example, when I die, I want to be buried next to my son in the Olympia Memorial Park. That's what I've said. I've said this is what I want. I don't want any government official, any president, any minister, any secretary to cabinet to start dictating where I should see, suppressing my views. If anybody has to show me honor, if anybody has to show me respect, they must do it when I'm alive, not when I'm dead. What good is that? And also, we've seen how the whole thing developed in terms of the, shall we say, the hostility between the two, the former president and the current president. We've seen it all. How can there be honor now in death? What good is that to anybody? And as Christians, as a Christian nation in particular, it is such an embarrassing situation that we must seek the intervention of a foreign country, albeit that they are our neighbors, albeit that many people living in this country originated from South Africa. It is such a great pity. So my view is that even as we serve in public office, yes, the public are entitled to respect and honor whatever we've contributed, but they cannot dictate. No government has any such right, as far as I'm concerned. So that would be my view, Hon.Robert Mwamba. And I think that what should have happened, there was an agreement. There was an agreement that was had with the family. That Wednesday, the body was supposed to be here, on the understanding that they did not want President Hakainde to be present in these proceedings because of the enmity and the animosity that had existed between the parties. Why can't the president stay away? What is so important about him attending? I am aware that, for example, in South Africa, where there was recently, vice president passed on. He went to be buried in his home area. Go ahead and look at what happened with President Mandela. They went and honored him in his own home area. I have chosen not to go to Myombe, Chief Myombe, Mafinga district in Sichinga province. I have chosen, I want to be buried next to my son. And if that is what I want, why should anybody? What right does a government have? What right has a president got? What is it that he's so keen to look at the body of my remains? Why would it be his business? So that is my view, Ambassador Mwamba. It is a great pity we have gotten to this stage.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and thank you for your comment. We now go to the very issues why you are here. You are former Minister of Agriculture. You are former Minister of Commerce and Industry. Then before that, you're privileged to have been a member of Parliament, and you chaired many committees. You are also Vice President of the UPND. And many people remember you when you present an alternative budget every time a national budget was presented by whichever Minister of Finance. And that's why I want to draw you to policy.
Okay.
What is the state of the country?
Ambassador, let me start by saying this, that my responsibilities at the moment, you and I have had a conversation before on the blog. I regard that this particular phase of my life is my last lap in public service. It is my last lap in public service. I am grateful to the Almighty God. I am grateful to this country that has allowed me to represent them as a member of Parliament for Mafinga in the first place, which was used to be Soka East. It also allowed me to serve them in Kafue. And in your introduction, you also talked about my efforts to try and revive the nitrogen chemicals of Zambia in Kafue. And I want to tell you that it is something that I'm very proud of. It was done during the time of my being a minister under the PF government under Mr. Sata, who asked me to move to Ministry of Agriculture from Commerce. Now, I owed the people of Kafue that promise which I had made when I was their member of parliament between 2001 and 2006. And the promise was that I was keen to revive, to revamp, and reinstate the operations of nitrogen chemicals. The Lord Almighty allowed me that opportunity when I became minister. Initially, I was very resistant to going as Minister of Agriculture. President Sata said to me, Sichinga, this is the ministry that affects most of the rural people. And when I went there, I realized just what he meant, and I was very grateful that I was availed that particular opportunity. So this is something that is close to my heart, personal. As I grew up, my mom used to take us to the field, to work in the field, and I realized just how much help the people in the rural areas needed. And I thought that in a little way, in a small way, as Minister of Agriculture, I would help in that particular regard. And also, I was privileged that my family's circumstances were such that my father was a doctor, my mother was a trained nurse. In the early days, they started working for medical field in 1940. And that enabled us to be at Lubwa, to be at Mberesh Mission Hospital, and where I was born. And obviously, it exposed me. My father ran a business before that, leading up to his death when he was 38 years old, at Isoka and also at Myombe. And because of this, I had an interest in finance. So I trained as a certified accountant. I trained at the University of Central England in the UK, and I went to Harvard Business School. And because of that, I had the benefit of large exposure, having worked for Indico, having worked for the mining sector, ZCCM, RCM, and then ZCCM. So I can say that I'm thankful to the Almighty that I've had the privilege of this exposure and this particular experience. So when I speak to it, and even when we prepared the alternative budget for the UPND, which we established and founded with President Mazoka, it was because we wanted to overcome, we wanted to demonstrate that there were alternatives to the policies that the party that of the day that was ruling us at the time. It was the MMD. That there were alternatives to it. You may wish to remind, I may wish to remind our viewers that I am a founder member. We founded MMD. Kashamtra Mbistale Wanika, Dr. Mbita Chitala, Dr. Remy Mshota, and we founded MMD. And the manifesto of the MMD was written in my office, 7th floor of Indico House. And as I talk to you now, as I share this with the public, I have got these floppies of that particular manifesto in my house. I have them. So nobody can tell me about MMD. Nobody can tell me about UPND. I was a founder member of UPND, and therefore, as when I became vice president to Mr. Mazoka from 2001 up to 2006, 2005, until I finished my term of office for Kafue in 2006, I was very clear in my mind as to what we were seeking to do. So even as you ask the question, the state of the economy at the moment is dire. Anybody telling you any other thing is lying to you. And I want to say to you that I am not a believer in messing my words. I am not missing my words at all. I'm explaining to you as a qualified accountant, and I've been qualified for the last 50 years. I've been a qualified accountant. I am telling you what the state is. And the state situation that we have, and we've been through this before. The Minister of Finance's office has said that we're going to have a growth of 5.8. Growth, GDP, the gross national domestic product. You have 5.8 in an environment where you have got power cuts to the extent that they're only 5, 7, 8, 9 hours at most in terms of the industries. It is shocking to me. It is so shocking. However, if those figures were to be believed, then the question that we must ask is, why is it not showing? Yes, you can have growth, GDP growth, without development. You can. Why? Because if most of what you are producing is not benefiting the local economy, it's not benefiting the local citizens, it's not coming back to the country, you are selling what you are producing and the proceeds are returned outside the country, you will have growth because it reflects in the output, but you will not have the development. Why? Because you don't have the resources that which have come from that growth, the things that you have produced. In particular, in our case, it is mining. Mining is our major activity, industrial activity in this country. That's the major source of our GDP growth. Now, according to the Zambia Annual Economic Report, which is produced by the Ministry of Finance, you have to say that agriculture is rated almost at number 3 from the bottom. So it has not been a major contributor to the GDP to the extent that it has once been. At one time, it was contributing 21% to the GDP. At the last count, it was contributing less than 3%. And I can give you these figures because I was a Minister of Agriculture. I'm trained in statistics. I'm trained in economics. I'm trained in finance. I'm trained in accounting. That is my training. That's my profession. That's what I do. So what I'm telling you is based on my knowledge of the very reports that are coming from government that the state of the economy is not good. Why? What we call the major economic indicators: interest rates, inflation, cost of living, cash flow, tightness. All these are major indicators. And what we're seeing at the moment is that they are all in a negative situation. Let's look at some of the statistics. If you have inflation that is at, say, 16% as we had, and all of a sudden it drops to 11% in 1 month, you know that that's fake. It's fake change. It does not happen like that. Economics don't work like that. They don't work in a 1 month. You can drop by 5% in inflation. You can drop by 7% in terms of inflation. It does not work like that. Let the public know that. Those that have not done economics, you can take my word and you can respect it, that it does not work like that. Economics does not work like that. So we can challenge those figures. So clearly somebody is playing around with the figures to make them look impressive. Why did we go to the IMF to borrow money? 1.3 billion.
Yeah, when you hear that the talk from the President of the Republic of Zambia and his Minister of Finance and his officials, they say Zambia is on a trajectory growth, that they've restructured the debt, inflation rate is down, the exchange rate has also jumped like inflation from 28 kwacha, it's now hovering around 23 kwacha. They're saying we have a bumper harvest and that is investment in the mining sector, and therefore it's a basis that we are headed towards a good platform. What do you say when you hear that?
Right, very well. Let's take them one by one, Ambassador Mwamba. Let's take them one by one, okay? Number one, yes, you can have a good crop after Lord Almighty has given you rain. The Zambian agriculture, Ambassador, the Zambian agriculture is rain-fed. It's based on rainfall. If the Lord gives us the rains on time, in the right, in terms of timing, in terms of how we operate, you can have a bumper harvest. And that first bumper harvest, you may recall, started when I was Minister of Agriculture, 2013-2014 season. In 2014, the results for the first time was 3.5 million metric tons of output. I'm talking about output. Why was that so? Output was good because the distribution of the inputs for that production were done in a timely manner. After we had rehabilitated the nitrogen chemicals for basal dressing in terms of the fertilizers, we had distributed by end of September. All the fertilizer, basal fertilizer was already in the field. It was already in the market where they were supposed to be fed into the field. Secondly, the top dressing, which normally comes in around January to March, was also already on order. It was already starting to arrive in the country and it was being monitored. That is what enabled us to have that bumper harvest of 2013-2014, which was at the time under my watch. And that is what enabled us to get to that particular level. So you can have a bumper harvest if the rains are good. However, you need also to recognize that we are coming from a season where our production was impacted by the drought that we had the previous year. So you have to, when you do the accounting for what production you have and what you can sell and what you can retain, you have to look at where you have come from. Now, you may be aware that we imported maize from Tanzania. And I think it's up to the government to tell the people at what price. Now, Was there any leftovers from that importation? If the answer is no, then it means that we have got almost a negative situation as far as the stocks that are carried over into the new season, all right, in terms of what we have now. Do we have stocks that were carried over from the 2023 to 2024 and 2024 to 2025 season? Do we have any carryovers? Now, clearly from 2023 to 2024, there was no carryover because we had a deficit. So it can only be from the 2024 leading us to 2025 now that you are talking about any excess stocks, if you've got that production. You then also have to look at the next time, which is your consumption. This is the responsibility of the Food Reserve Agency, FRA. They are supposed to ensure that we've got food security in the country. How do you ensure that? The stock that is required for Zambia to survive, Zambia, I'm talking about Zambia alone, in this country, the minimum is 1.5 million metric tons that we consume, that we produce things like stock feed, we produce mealie meal, we produce any other products from agriculture. You need a minimum of 1.5 million metric tons. However, in our particular case, we have to recognize the demands that are coming from, concomitant demands that are coming from Congo, from DRC, in particular Katanga. Katanga consumes between 750,000 to 1 million metric tons, which primarily is supplied by Zambia. Therefore, when you look at what quantities of maize you ought to have, maize, because it is a stable commodity that you need to have, you must be considering a figure of between 2.2 to 2.5 million metric tons every year. You need that at minimum. So how much does the FRA buy? FRA buys according to the amount of money that Ministry of Finance allocates to it. And in this particular case, they normally buy 500,000 metric tons. What remains as part of that 2.5 million metric tons, it's not held by the government. It's not held by FRA. It is held by either these producers themselves, I'm talking about the milling companies, or by the farmers themselves, or by the peasant farmers, so-called, in their bands. So you cannot make a statement that we are going to sell maize when you are coming from a deficit situation before you've done the balance sheet of carryover, consumption, what will be left over when you recognize what you purchased. So that's one thing about agriculture. Yes, you can have a production which is satisfactory, which is sufficient for the consumption of the country. However, to be able to sell to other countries, you must recognize that you can have a situation where next year we may have a drought. We may not have sufficient to last us the 1.5 million metric tons that we need annually to consume. The other challenge we have is that even if you produced it, we do not have sufficient storage capacity. The secure storage capacity of this country is below 900,000 metric tons, meaning that you may produce a commodity, but it goes to waste because you are putting it on stakes, you are putting it on, no, not even on slabs, you put tarpaulin over it, it starts to germinate, and therefore it deteriorates. So that's about agriculture. Let us move on to the mining, which you've raised with me. The mining sector takes a long time to recover. But before you start talking about the investment, let's find out what is it that Zambia has been producing. In the last 2-3 years, the last count for production was 820,000 metric tons. Before that, it was 800,000 metric tons. What does that mean? The president and his government have said that they want to produce 3 million metric tons. Emmanuel, Ambassador Emmanuel, to move from that level to 3 million metric tons is a tall order. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's a very, very tall order. The amount of investment you need, not just in equipment, not just in monies that go in, but also the processing of that material. Also, after you've processed it, you need to understand what capacities you have to be able to get to to develop the stops underground that are necessary from which you can do your development, you can do your extraction. Okay, to then go through the process of processing it in the mining, the primary mining, the secondary mining, processing, and then you've got the concentrating, you've got the smelting, you've got the refining. Okay, those are all processes that you have got to invest in. So you may invest now, but the output that is going to come from there, from the mining side, to get from the 800,000 even to 1 million, is going to take you 2 or 3 years before you achieve that. And Emmanuel, I was company secretary, I was mine secretary, I was division of financial control, form of Freedom Mine. I was there for 5 years. I'm talking from experience. I'm not talking from without. So the issue of that is important. Yes, you may have the investment.
Honorable Bob Sichinga,
let me just finish this.
the ambition by
let me just
government
finish.
to move. Yeah,
Let me just finish this, please.
Yeah, just
let me
a minute.
finish this. I want to refer to the investment that you've talked about. Yeah. Let me share this with you. As Minister of Commerce and Trade and Industry, that was my main job. I was marketing Zambia throughout, wanting to get investment. It takes between 2.5 years to 3 years before an that is made by an investor materializes. I'm talking about through ZDA. So to talk about, yes, we're on the right trajectory is not immediate. Let's go to the last item that you talked about, that the date of the country has been rescheduled. I want to share with you that only a few days ago, I was told that there was an investment of 19 billion by a Qatari company, all right, which is supposed to be in housing, is supposed to be in mining, is supposed to be in infrastructure, is supposed to in these areas. Now, 19 billion is almost as much as the debt that you've got at the moment. So if you have got that debt rescheduled, it does not mean that you no longer have to pay. You still have to pay the debt, that debt which is existing now, before you start talking about now servicing the 19 billion. So when people talk about, yes, we are on the right trajectory, it takes at least 2.5 to 3 years before it materializes. And even if you fast track it, to be able to use 19 billion means that you are now going to increase your debt from the existing, according to the government, from the 16 billion dollars that is owed. You put another 19 billion on top of that. Where are you at? You're at 35 billion. How are you going to service it? With what? Let's go to the mining and complete that. You've decided you're going to reduce your mineral royalty tax. When the PF government was exiting, the mineral royalty tax, which is your major source of revenue for the country, was at 6%. Now, 6% mineral royalty tax is on a figure of around 8 billion US dollars of your production of 800 metric tons, of 800,000 metric tons. And the amount that comes from there is 476 million, I beg your pardon, 476 million only for mineral royalty tax. But you need more than that. And this country has always financed its investments, its expenditure on a deficit basis. We've never had a positive or balanced budget. So when you talk about you have rescheduled the date, the question is, how much do you have to pay now? Where is it going to come from? And when you've reduced it from 6% from the PF side at time to 3%, meaning you have reduced it from 476 to $218 million. That's what you have. How are you going to service that debt? Tell me. Where are you going to get the foreign currency from? Lastly, you have the exchange rate. Right?
In fact, there is a lot of concern, Honorable Bob Sichinga. I hosted your young brother, Dr. Grieve Chelwa, just last week, and he called the debt restructure a total failure because he says when he looked at
it is a total failure
from Ministry of Finance, the amount of debt to be paying is $1 billion this year, another $1.1 billion in 2026, another almost going to $1.2 billion by 2027, 2028. And he said that's not a debt.
Absolutely correct.
Because in fact the reason the PF
no, it is not a debt restructure
is that in debt service they had hit a ceiling of $1 billion. So we are going to be servicing this year $1 billion in debt, next year,
correct,
and in the subsequent years. What kind of debt restructure is that? Before I invite your comment,
correct,
how has Congo moved? We were literally beating Congo in copper production. They were under 700,000 metric tons per year. But in the last 5 years, they've ramped up production. They are now sitting at 3.5 million metric tons. In fact, they are now in the top 3 copper producers in the world after Chile, Peru. Now
In the world, yes.
Congo, that has risen
Absolutely.
from number 11 to number 3. And we have actually now even scaled down from our previous positions. Just speak to those two issues in regard to the debt restructuring. After debt restructuring, it has become more expensive for us. And then how did Congo do it? Amidst lack of power,
All right.
instability, no proper financial and legal jurisdiction in the DRC, and no proper infrastructure. How have they done it?
I think that we are very much mistaken, Ambassador Mwamba, to think that Congo is not as developed in terms of the mining. No. I've been to Congo. I've been to Katanga myself. Not once. I've been there 3 times when I was Minister of Commerce, because we were marketing there. It's a big market. And I can tell you this, that we should never ever underestimate any country. Congo is what has got the biggest reserves of copper reserves ore in the world. All right? But above all, its grades, we share the ore body. That ore body, Ambassador Mwamba, comes from the northern part of Congo into Ruapula, or from Ruapula. And the main body, the main ore body, the main formation, rock formation is actually in Congo, in particular in Katanga. That's where you are now finding all those mines in the Lubumbashi, and then further on into Kolwezi, and so on and so forth. That ore body, they are sitting on the main ore body, and the grades, repeat, grades, the grade of the ore is much, much higher than Zambia. We are on the periphery, we are on the side part, which is not as high. The highest grade we have is at Nchanga open pit, all right? It's at 4.12% of what you bring out. So all those mountains you see, it's overburden. It's to remove that overburden in order to access the ore body. And that ore body at the best is at 4.12% grade, meaning that for every ton you have emptied or you mine, you are only going to get you're going to get only 4.4 of that ton. Okay, so that is very, very important for us to understand, and that's the best grades that we have. Now, the underground is more expensive than an open pit. That's why you're seeing that in Northwestern Province, you've got the situation where, because they're doing open pit mining, it is working out much faster. It is also, the grades are lower, but they're able to recover better. And also technology has changed. What you obtain after you've processed through the concentrate, through the crushing, through the concentrating, through the smelting, have improved. So Congo has been way ahead of us because they are sitting on a bigger ore body with better grades, with better grades, with better grades. And when they develop their stops, when they develop their open pits, they are getting better output for the same overburden that you have removed. That is why it has improved to the extent that it has. And also, there's been quite a lot of money that has been invested therein. And that's why they may be not having sufficient capacity to do the processing of refinery, for example, of smelting and refining. So to talk about the fact that therefore, because you have just made an investment, it automatically becomes a finished product. The answer is no. It takes a long time, usually 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, before you start to see the results of that particular investment in the underground operations, in terms of accessing the stops, developing the stops and accessing those stops thereafter, and blasting them underground, moving them with the low loaders underground, bringing them to the surface, crushing them, then taking them into concentrator, taking them to refinery. If you don't have sufficient refinery capacity, you may find that you're not able to achieve that particular production. I hope it has explained the situation, the difference between us and Congo. Don't underestimate Congo.
When you hear the justification by the state, first they reduced mineral royalty tax from 6% to 3%. They abolished mineral royalty tax, which was non-deductable. Now it's deductible. And recently, government allowed, I think, about 7 mine houses to export ore without any export fee, and they are citing that there is insufficient smelting capacity. What is your reflection of that? Because that's literally robbing us of domestic revenue.
Ambassador, I thought you would ask that question, so I did some sums. I'm an accountant, so I work with figures. Right. Let me give you the specific figures. Let me give you specific figures. If we work on the basis of 800,000 metric tons, and we assume a price of $10,000 per metric ton, it's slightly lower than that, it's 9,800 and something today, so let's assume 10,000, all right? Or $9,000 per metric ton. I have multiplied 800,000 by $9,000 rather per metric ton. It gives me 7.2 billion US dollars. 7.2 billion. At the rate of 6%, mineral royalty tax is at 432 million. So that if the government was genuinely getting that money, it would have raised $432 million as tax, as mineral royalty tax at 6%. That is the figure that the PF left it at. $432 million at 6%. Now, come UPND, they reduce that from 6% and halve it to 3%. It means you are halving the amount you can earn from 432 to $216 million. That's what you've done. You've reduced the amount that you can access from the taxes. So how will you make up for that difference? Because you still have to spend money. You still have to buy medicines. You still have to import my equipment. You still have to pay the salaries. You still have to pay the things that are necessary to keep the mines operating. Now, the investors also want their dividend. So they use that money to externalize. And in fact, I don't even say externalize. They keep it when they have sold the copper, their copper, which has come from Zambia, their copper. All right? They don't bring the money here. They keep it outside. So how are you going to get the revenue here locally, which will enable you to meet government expenditure? That's why I was explaining to you. You talked about producing alternative budgets. I am explaining to you how it's done. That's my job. That's my profession. That's my training. Where are you going to get the difference of 216 million just by changing it from 6% to 3%? Where are you going to get that gap, that shortfall, that deficit? Where are you going to get it from? Who is going to pay for it? Secondly, if you're going to borrow the 19 billion from Qatar, they will want that money to be paid. Let's assume they want it paid over 20 years, meaning you'll be paying 1 billion, almost 1 billion every year, in addition to 1 billion currently of the current debt, which you are said to have rescheduled. That's what it means. Now, you'll be paying 2 billion. How will you manage 2 billion when you are not able to manage 1 billion right now? What kind of rescheduling of debt is that? And rescheduling debt does not mean the debt is written off. It is not. So what I'm saying to you is that when you take these figures, it does not even make sense to borrow anymore because you will never pay it. Let me go a step further. In 2004, 2005, we reached the HIPIC completion point. All the debt the country had, $7.2 billion, was written off. We had a clean slate, 2005. This is 2025. 20 years later, we have a debt which is in excess of 16 billion. The bulk of it is for China, meaning we do not have sufficient to be able to meet the debt, and that's why you defaulted at the time that COVID came into place. You did not have sufficient resources to be able to service the debt of the time. Now you are adding more debt. You have gone to the IMF. You have borrowed that money, and you have to service it. It's part of the rescheduled debt. Where are you going to get the money from if you're not getting it from mineral royalty tax? Tell me. And I've worked on the mines for 10 years at a very senior position You can't teach me. None of the people that are in government at the moment, the ministers as included, the president included, have ever worked on the mines the way I have. None. I'm just telling you a fact. I was at Mufulira for 5 years. So nobody tell me that you know any better than I do.
Bob Sichinga. I'll bring you to the other issues, but my rider, before I begin to invite callers to participate and ask for your views about the opposition unity and the leadership opportunities that is coming up in the Zambia We Want political party. You were with President Hakainde Hichilema. You were a very strong voice against Patriotic Front. You condemned borrowing. The debt has jumped from $11.9 billion. It's now in excess of the foreign debt. It's now in excess of $16 billion. 15.4, 15.7.
That's correct.
And the Minister of Finance, Hon.Robert Mskotwane, has issued, is requesting for another coupon of $1.5 billion from the IMF when this current program ends. Here is a government you were condemning, the previous government, that it was borrowing. And there is a new government that you supported that has gone on a borrowing spree. It has ballooned the local debt. It has not negotiated the local debt. In fact, the local debt is choking us because we understand there is a huge amount that is due on issues of government bonds and other government bonds that they issue locally that is due to this year. And then you see the Minister of Finance bringing, he says there is fiscal responsibility, that is more responsible than the previous government. And you used to highlight that issue of fiscal responsibility. But here is the new Minister of Finance who keeps on bringing these huge supplementary budgets besides his other budget. The supplementary budget just for this year was $2.5 billion besides the...
You should say supplementary budgets. There were two of them.
And this is just at the eve of the next budget, because he's expected to present another budget in September, October for 2026.
In September of this year, yes.
What is your view? What was the departure by President Hakainde to his political campaigns, his promises, and the basis in which people like you supported him?
Yes. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you raised that particular issue, because I think it is a matter that must be clarified. It must be explained. You will recall that when I was doing the alternative budget for UPND, it was under a different, it was under the leadership of President Mazoka. And as far as I'm concerned, I understood that the philosophy that the UPND was going to pursue was going to be that which was enunciated by the Mazoka-led leadership. Clearly, this has changed. President Hichilema had asked me several times to join him. I had refused. For a whole year, I did not want to join his party leadership. He insisted, you are the people who started this party, you are the people who must lead us. So the basis of my support was because of the irresponsible borrowing that I saw in the PF, which I criticized. It was my expectation, Ambassador, that there would be discipline in terms of how the UPND under HH would actually behave. I'm sorry to say that my trust was misplaced. This government is a total failure. That is a fact. I can tell you that quite frankly. Clearly, there's a lot of machinations. There's a lot of playing around with the figures. And I want to mention to you that when I was criticizing even the MMD government, Dr. Mskotwane was Minister of Finance. He was. So what I'm saying is that clearly that's his philosophy, that's what he believes in. I differ with that view. I also differ with President HH's approach. This is not how you solve the problem. I'm basing it on my professional understanding, on my professional training. So yes, Ambassador, you are right. I did support UPND because I was vice president. By having been vice president of that party meant that there was a certain specific regime that we wanted to introduce, which clearly the HH government did not introduce. And the promises that were made obviously have not been honored. I mean, you all know that. I mean, it's not a secret anymore. Everybody knows that the promises that were made have not been fulfilled, yet there is a lot of rewriting things. There is arm twisting, the changing of figures, and making it look nice. No, it is now a constituency development fund. Constituency development fund is not a UPND initiative. It has been there for a long time. From almost 1998, it has been there. We introduced the CDF to help the members of parliament in their constituencies for maintenance of things like maybe a roof of a school has been blown off, or a clinic, or a bridge has broken down. It was intended to help the members of parliament to address those immediate items. That's how CDF started. The fact that now we have expanded it does not mean that it will produce results, because basically this is being used now to appease the cadres. How many people have got money in their pockets because now they have gotten access to CDF? It's not there. So you can say as much as you can talk about free education, which is not being manifest in people's lives, because apart from school fees, there is still you have to pay the uniforms. You've got to get the children to the school. You've got to feed them. So to talk about it like it is a new initiative which the UPND has introduced is a lie. And straightforward. And I can tell you, because I was in Parliament, all right? Many of the people that are there at the moment were not in Parliament when we introduced CDF. So nobody can tell me about that. So unfortunately for them, this is the situation which has to be corrected. So having said that, I criticized, I supported them. Yes, I did. I have no apologies to make about that support, but I'm saying my support was misplaced, because the people that are implementing the programs and bringing a new administration have failed to honor the promises that they made, which formed the basis upon which they were supported. So that, I think, is very important that any government, and I mean any government, UPND, PF, MMD, if it fails to honor its promises and fails to contain the debt that you've talked about, including that of going to IMF, if we got our act together in terms of the production, even just agriculture alone can more than overcome that. And if with the mining side, the resources that are generated from the mining sector are retained in the country, and it is now paid to the people that are supplying to the mining sector who have not been paid, it can change the scenario. But that is not the case. That is not the HH UPND stance at the moment. Therefore, they don't deserve my support. And any other government that comes up that does not honor their word, for me, they will not have my support. And this has been a painful experiment, if you want, to state that way. So I hope that I've responded to those issues, because what is wrong, whether it is under PF, whether it is under MMD, or it is under UPND, still remains wrong. And I'm saying to you that the budget of this country, Ambassador, the budget of this country is is smaller than that of the Harvard Business School where I went. I'm just telling you that. That's a fact. It's a very small economy. So we just need to understand where we're coming from, how we can use our resources, and if you are working basically for the foreigners, they are the ones that are investing. They are the ones that want their money. They will take that money out of the country, and it will not reflect in the cash flow within the country. It remains a deficit situation in terms of the budget, and when you reduce mineral royalty tax, which is your major source of revenue, you are not going to be able to cover that gap. That is my response to that particular point.
Yeah. You've laid the foundation. This is a government in crisis, and it doesn't seem to know what is required to do. The annual budget for Harvard University, I just checked it, is $6.5 billion, dollars a year. So you can imagine that the economy of the SA university is far bigger than our country. I like that context. Opposition unity. First, what is happening in the Zambia we want? We were privileged that we hosted the interim leader, Ernest Mwansa, and he told us that you are, I think, in the process of picking the leadership and team in your in the Zambia we want. will you have an opportunity to participate, especially as head or leader of the party? Because you've assembled quite a team in there. Muhabi Lungu is very good, Ernest Mwansa, and all the other colleagues that you have drawn together. Are you aspiring there? And then what are your thoughts as a team on unity of purpose in the opposition? Do you aspire to work together with other political alliances? Will you, for example, allow your ambition to be toned down in the event that the opposition picked a candidate other than you? Are you able to lead or to be led? You can answer the mouthful of that question.
Thank you, Ambassador. I'm thankful that you have raised that particular. I was hoping that we would come to that particular stage. I mean, for me, to all intents and purposes, you and I had our podcast much earlier, and after your repeated insistence, I was very reluctant to appear on that. You remember that very well. The question that I think arose was that many people kept on approaching me. And some of our fellow citizens had said, look, you have this experience and you are involved with UNIP, you are involved with the formation of MMD, you are involved with the UPND, you were a minister in PF. Why are you wasting the resource of your knowledge which can benefit the country? I spent some time to reflect on it. I went into prayer to ask if this is what the Lord wanted me to do. It would be selfish of me, Ambassador Mwamba, to refuse to do what my nation needs if the skills that I have could contribute. I am not the only person, but if this my experience, if my training, if my what I've accumulated in terms of knowledge could help my country, I am prepared to do that as part of my legacy, because I'm doing it, if you want, for selfish reasons. Selfish reasons because I want my children to inherit an economy which will enable them to survive. I want my grandchildren to come back and say, we had a grandfather when it was wrong, he spoke out, and he did not abandon us, but he did make his contribution. So after reflecting on the request from my colleagues that chatted with me, I felt that this was important. And I want to say to you that the Zambia we want is what I want. I want a Zambia that my children will want, that my grandchildren will want. And this is why I agreed to join hands with my colleagues in the Zambia we want for us to provide the kind of leadership that we thought would help the country. And for the benefit of our viewers, I carried with me a copy of the Zambia we want. Right here is our manifesto. It is Manifesto 26 to 2031. This is our manifesto. It took us 6 months to develop this. I chaired the committee that did this manifesto. We put our thoughts together. We looked at what is happening in the country. We went into the global economics. We looked at what the country needed, including the issue of rescheduling of the debt. What do we need to solve this particular problem? How should we approach it? We spent 6 months with very, very fine minds. Individuals that spent sleepless nights preparing this particular document. In total, it has got, just for your benefit, it has got a total of 78 pages. So we looked at past performances, we looked at the national economic reports, we looked at the performance reports, we looked at the various, to develop this particular product. It's the manifesto of the Zambia that we want, ZWW. I am chairperson of the development committee. And this is the product of what we did. It has been approved by our National Leadership Council, and this is what we are selling to the Zambian people, that we do have a solution, that there are alternative solutions, and we know what we're doing. We are not groping in the dark. We are people who have, many of us have been in parliament. You have just talked about my colleague, Hon.Robert Ernest Mwansa, who is our interim president. He was in parliament. He was a deputy minister. He served in various capacities. So he's a very knowledgeable. In fact, when we were doing the CDF, he was right there in the forefront when we were doing that. So this is the product of what we've done as far as the manifesto is concerned. Now, we have scheduled ourselves to go to elect the final team that will lead us into the elections for 2026. And this is our constitution. This is our party constitution, right? Right here. So we are people that spent time. This again took another 6 months. This was led by somebody who have not asked for permission, so I cannot disclose their names, but this is a state counsel, a lawyer by training, that led the committee on the constitution of the party. And at this point in time, mid of September, yes, we are going to go to elect the final team that will lead us into the elections. And there are several people that are interested and so on and so forth. We'll come to the question of whether I'm putting my heart into it or not, but that's another matter. For now, we want the party's position to be very clear. And what we've done in order to make sure that the elections are handled properly, we have decided that our election committee, our election commission will be headed by people outside the party who are not members of our party. So we have written to organizations like LAS, we've written to organizations like the church groups, JCTR, and others like that. We've said, can you please give us people that are going to help us in this commission to ensure that the group that is going to manage the elections is independent of those of us in the party who may have a vested interest. So again, this is our manifesto. It's our party constitution and our manifesto here. So we have got these two documents. We are ready to be able to lead the country. However, we are conscious of the fact that the people of Zambia, I think they know who they want to remove, but they don't know what to replace it with. So we are conscious of the fact that we are not the only stakeholders. The Zambia we want is not the only stakeholder. And one of the challenges we've had in the country is where there's so much ego that people want to be president even when they are not prepared or they are ill-equipped to be able to lead the country. And what we've had, I think the example of what we've gone through now is manifest to the people of Zambia. It's not enough to talk about things. We must also walk the talk that we've made. We must honor the promises that we make. And the question is, how do we do it? Do we have the capacity? So we may not be the only people with a good team. Yes, we have. That team that we have, clean people who have not been involved in any scandals at all. We are very proud of that. None of us has stolen any money from anywhere. So if we are arrested on account of the fact that we stole money, it will be a lie, Ambassador. That I just want to tell you that. We served in government honorably, and we feel that since we still have some strength, as far as I'm concerned, I've said to you, it's my last lap. After this, I'm not having any more involvement in the political circle. I will have done my part. But I'm hoping that I can pass on the baton to the next leadership. And you have asked me the question: will I be putting my hat into my candidature into the hat? I don't know. At the moment, I'm praying about it. I'm fasting about it. I am thinking about it. I have not made up my mind whether I will participate or not. But if one were to ask me a little later, I may. But it's not me that wants to volunteer. If the people of Zambia, if my colleagues in the Zambia would like me to lead them, if they would like me to play any part and to be led by others, if they feel that other members of the group in the NLC are better than I am in terms of providing that leadership and that solution, then I'm prepared to work with them. I have no problem with it at all. But at the same time, we're aware that there's far too many parties in the opposition. So we have been working very hard in the last 6 months to try and bring the various opposition parties together so that we can be able to arrive at a common platforms of what the people of Zambia want us to do, what the Zambian people want us to solve for them. We're talking about the leadership that is going to put the economic power in the hands of Zambians, not foreigners. We are not looking to the north for help. We're not looking to the mining companies to support our campaigns. No, because they will then hold us that we owe them. The foreigners will say, we helped you to come into office. You owe us. We don't want that, because that will stop us from being the citizens that are responsible for the welfare of our people. We want this to be the Zambians. Even without resources, we would rather the Zambians know that we have not stolen from anybody, we have not gone out of the country to go and ask people to support us so that then they can come and control us. And if they control us, we cannot solve the Zambian problems. We have seen it. The evidence is there, quite plain and clear. So What I'm saying to you is that we are working very, very hard, and if in the other political parties there are candidates for presidency or ministerials and so on and so forth, shadow cabinet, that are better than those of us that are in the Zambia we want, we are prepared to be led. But also, by the same token, if we have got individuals that can be able to provide that leadership because of their understanding, because of their experience, because of their knowledge, we would like to be participants in that particular process. It is not about Zambia we want. It is not about any other political party. It's about the Zambian people. That is our view. And that the Zambian people deserve the very best leadership, especially now with the challenges that we've faced. In fact, I would like to invite you, Hon.Robert Mwamba, Ambassador Mwamba, you must come and join us so that we can sort out this thing, because we need knowledgeable people who understand the problem, who also acknowledge there is a problem, not people who are refusing that there's a problem. How do you solve a problem when you say it doesn't exist? You can't. You have to acknowledge there was a mistake. There has been errors. We have had failures. This is the way to do it. So I believe that I have some experience that I could contribute to the Zambia we want. I could contribute to our nation. As you say, I come with almost 15 years experience in parliament, in government. So I am not a novice. I can offer some help. I may not be the best person according to the Zambian people, but I wait for my colleagues to say, can you help us here? Can you lead us here? Can you join us here? Can you follow somebody else? I'll be quite happy to do that. Since by the same token, we are prepared to work with all the other political parties in the opposition and make sure that we develop the solutions for this country as we go forward.
Wonderful, wonderful. Viewers, you have an opportunity to ask Hon.Robert Bob Sichinga. We are hosting Robert Sichinga. He's former MP for Mafinga. It was Isoka East at the time. He's also former MP for Kafue. You remember he served as vice president of the UPND under Anderson Mazoka, and is a well-experienced minister in government. He served as Minister of Commerce and Industry, and now is in the leadership of the Zambia we want. He was also very critical in the last elections in 2021. He provided a voice of credency for UPND and criticized the UPND and on its failings. And here he was laying a blueprint of what he thinks should be done. So call us on the numbers that are showing, and let's have Hon.Robert Bob Sichinga answer your questions.
Government has initiated talks with the family of former President Edgar Lungu to amicably resolve the matter of his burial. President Hakainde Hichilema says the government team is in South Africa holding discussions with the family.
The most important thing is that we hope to resolve it. Our team is there. They're engaging the family. And any support, Your Honor, we can get from family members such as yourselves would be appreciated to help us put closure to this.
Hon.Robert Bob Sichinga, already have the first caller. Caller, please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Ambassador Mwamba, good evening, Hon.Robert Sichinga.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening to you, sir.
My name is Mungwi, and when I talk about Mungwi, I think that will sound more to Mr. Sichinga. He knew Mungwi long before.
Yes. Born. Okay.
Can I commend you, Mr. Sichinga, for coming forward to redeem the Zambia? Look, today Zambia is like on the tail of Tanzania. The comparisons are just
Right.
comparable. Tanzanians are coming into Zambia. They are the employers. When in fact, long before it was the other way. And indeed, there's no country that can move forward depending on those companies that people were when they leave Zambia, they say they are going to meet or they are going for certain important meetings. They sit in dark corners and form companies. Then they pick a few foreigners to come to Zambia posing like they are investors, and yet they are not. Those are shadow representatives of the current group of leadership in Zambia. When you look at some of the projects that are said to be undertaken by investors, it's a sorry sight. I was in Zambia and I drove on the Mongo-Lusaka road. Pathetic.
Pathetic indeed.
And Dr. Sichinga, you would know better than me. Look at the works that are being done on courage. Is that your courage going to last any longer than the Kapili 7-year-old?
It's a joke.
Thank you, my dear
It's a joke.
brother. Quickly ask your last question.
Ambitious presidential candidates of Zambia. The question of changing the government is not a results organ. And I would also, in the same vein, appeal to you, Ambassador Mwamba, that Dr. Bob Sichinga has invited you. He has seen life long before you, long before all the young people that are now jumping up and down wanting to be president. Presidency is not just one because you can stand up and speak very good English. No. To champion the cause of this change, you must have somebody who has got the material, somebody who has got the feelings of the many Zambians that are sleeping without food. Zambians who have been turned into paupers today. When this new dawn government was coming up, we were so excited out here. Some of us were even planning to get back home because we knew this is a guy who had actually spent some time here in the UK, in Birmingham, where he was doing his studies. Of course, I know when you are in school, you are not so much exposed because much of your time is taken by studies. But look at where is taken in our country.
Thank you, my brother. Quickly wind up. We allow other callers.
Between the Tongas and the Bembas. Why can't you people who have been to school convene an indaba or an inquest to find out where is this coming from? Because I don't think there are members that have been that we were involved in cattle rustling some time back or before we are born. The two tribes are too far apart, including the head of people that are close to the Bembas. That's not right. Any Bemba-speaking person can't be an enemy. Please, there must be laws in that country, like they have done here in the UK, that if you are seen to be doing anything that is racially motivated, you are taken to court and imprisoned.
Thank you, my brother. Sorry, I have to cut you. There are so many calls that are calling. Hello, caller, please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Mwamba, Patrick Chilufya from the UK. And Hon.Robert Sichinga, thank you so much for coming. Fantastic interview. And I can see that you're a patriot, you're a statesman, you're a leader. And I've met you, I don't know whether you would remember, when Sata got into power, you came with him to London and we met at the High Commission office, in the evening. I think you can remember, I think it was 2012, 2013, we met when President Sata won the elections and he came to London. Yeah. So I just want to talk about a few things, Sichinga. You've spoken about so many things, and I'm so excited about the team you have assembled there in the Zambia we want. I've spoken to some of them. George Lumanda is a good friend of mine, so we talk a lot. Yeah. So I would start by borrowing a quote from a good friend of mine, Reverend Mwamba's. And it says, Zambia exemplified scarcity in the midst of plenty and poverty in the midst of abundance. So the question to you is, why is it so? So let me move on. You've talked about economic, the economy is growing in terms of GDP, but Zambians are still suffering. And if you remember, Mwanawasa, with Mangande, between 2003 and 2006, the economy was growing at an average of 6% per annum. But Zambians were still suffering. And Mwanawasa, but though there was an improvement, but not so much. And Mwanawasa, before he died, he lamented that he hasn't done much because he hasn't reduced the level of poverty so much. What should we do to do that? The economic growth is growing, like the Chinese shared growth. And part of that growth is shared with the people. What should we do, Sichinga? And then let's move on to mining. It's really sad, Sichinga, that with the resources that we have, the fifth largest producer of copper in the world, the first largest producer of emeralds. Zambian emeralds are the best in the world, but we are still poor. Sixth poorest country and fourth most unequal country. And Sichinga, with the mining, we're losing a lot of money. There was a report by a British charity in 2012 to 2015. Part of it was under Sata's rule. It's called War on Want. And he said Zambia is losing about 3 billion a year through transfer pricing, tax avoidance, tax evasion, tax concessions, forward contracts, and so forth. What is the solution to that as Zambia we want? Because we can't keep on losing that kind of money. And Botswana has 50-50% with the beers. And 50% of the sales comes into Botswana. Sichinga, in Zambia, I worked for Castro and BP in South Africa for 10 years. And these were foreign countries. Foreign companies invested in South Africa. I worked in Treasury. There was no time when sales were repatriated to the UK. We only sent dividends to the UK at the end of the financial year, and after the accounts have been edited by Ernst & Young, who are our auditors. How come sales of at ShopRite, they go the following day into South Africa? How come the copper sales don't come into Zambia? They all remain. Just the best example, Mopani, we own 49%. Do we receive 49% of that copper sales into Zambia? And let me go quickly into Mopani. Mopani deal, I want you to talk about it. Mopani deal makes me cry because to start with, the tender was issued by the CCMHI. The president interfered and he brought in Rothschild. And then 2 bidders were selected. The president interfered, brought a non-entity. If you see the article issued by Financial Times, they said there was no transparency and accountability in that deal. And not only that, that company is a newcomer. And then Grenco sank 2 shafts and the smelter worth almost 4 billion. But when you look at, they said 49% is 1.1 billion. So roughly, Mopani is worth 2 billion or 2.2 billion, which is not true. And then no details of that agreement has been shown. In Botswana, when they signed a new agreement with the BS, they show it. It never went through parliament. And not only that, the 90 million, they said we paid Grenco to clear the debt. It shows as debt from IRH. And then did the 90 million, the difference, did it come into our coffers?
Thank you, Bachilufia. Thank you so much. Thank you. I think that's a mouthful from Bachilufia. You answer that. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Hello. Good evening. I would like to remain anonymous today.
Anonymous, make your contributions quickly.
Yes, I would like to find out from Hon.Robert Bob Sichinga. First of all, I would like to echo the sentiments of previous callers that of the compilation of a fantastic team in the Zambia want. However, find out why are there so many political parties being created? Is it that they receive huge funding in terms of sponsorship from donors? That's my first question. In order to remove the incumbent and avoid splitting the votes. Because right now, the incumbents have got an advantage of creating these by-elections and carrying the day. So what are we as opposition parties doing to avoid such things?
Thank you very much. And thank you. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Good morning or good evening, Hon.Robert Mwamba. And good morning and good evening, Uncle Bob. I'll call him Uncle Bob. This is Zephania calling from Lusaka, Zambia.
Zephania, quickly make your contributions. We have so many people waiting.
Yeah. Yes, I have only 2 questions if you can allow me to ask Uncle Bob. The first question is that Zambia's economy backbone rests on agriculture, mining, and manufacturing. 4 years into UPND tenure, farmers are grappling with the delay inputs. Mining remains under foreign dominance and the manufacturing base is weak. From your perspective, what practical common-grown policies should the opposition collectively champion to reverse this trend and bring real value to Zambia? Then second question, as we head towards 2026, Zambia are asking with opposition fragmented, what concrete steps are being taken to forge united front to defend the vote against possible electoral malpractice? And what do you see the Patriotic Front, still the largest opposition party, as the anchor for that unity? I want the honest opinion there. Thank you.
Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and yeah. If we know.
From Livingston.
Mwamba from Livingston. Make your contributions quickly.
First of all, Bob Sichinga. Now, this is a man who was there when there was UNIP, and he is a man who was there when there was MMD and eventually PF. In terms of transition from this government to the next government, how was it in 1991 from UNIP to MMD? And how was it in 2011 from MMD to PF? It's because guys, one of the reasons that contributed to much of their failure is that they had set aside the permanent secretaries. And what I understand, a permanent secretary is a controlling officer. So he's the one who hands over, he's the one who actually, in each and every ministry, the permanent secretary is the one who guides the president for any updates that were happening in government. Now, these guys had set them aside. So how should we, in case, for sure, I'm very sure, change of government here next year, but Sichinga, how should transition if we have a shani, so that as a country we don't get ourselves into the trap that these guys fell into because of maybe lack of information.
Thank you, Wamwewa. Thank you, Wamwewa. As you can hear, there are more calls. Let me just take as many. Sorry, Wamwewa from Livingston. Let me see if I can take some more calls. There are so many calls. And let's just try to see if we can get the views of others as well. This is only fair. Then I'll hand over the baton to Hon.Robert Bob Sichinga. Let's just take a few calls. These calls that we're waiting. Yeah, just a minute. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
This is Munkonge calling from East London.
Yes, Munkonge from East London. Make your contribution.
First, nalambira pa mulandi wa Chililo. Ndelomba kwa abafyashi ba Bob pa mulandi wa Chililo because kulingana na amashiwa yarandi kwa pa mulandi wa Chililo fyonse okuseka baseka family. But abantu abengi abamacheyichezi aba oppositions bambi kutina barombako mwamona kwa kapi mwarangira ko rupa because Sichinga chali ishibikwa nomba urupwa ruratikishiwo kwe bati balikana okuleta bode kuzambya but Sichinga opo chaba chalengo kwe bati kufukana ino chita then side imbi na cha focus ka kufeba bakola bamwa bachituma pali ino nchitaine ndemo nokwe bachitufere to afako ma opposition leaders like Bob pali ino nchitana tukwata leadership crisis so tufere to afako ba opposition bushe bala bomba shani kubati basa chimfya ukukusara kuresa mu 2026 na environment yo bali mu bushe ilishani fintu nshi fyo twara afana na bena kwe bakasara na bena nombanga tuambo okulanda pama history tatu abafwe sana pali ino nchitatufere twatuma nokubakoseresha pakwikatana bafwire bayikatana orochimbi bafwe ko ba PF because PF na ili important muri United Alliance because ba PF bali kwatama structures countrywide na abantu bonse bali beshiba grassroots so it's very easy ila United Front nga chakwe bati mwaikatana na imwe bonse ba Zambia we want it's very easy you to reach out abantu mula munchende because mwalaindera pamona na ba PF mwala eba abantu fe mupekenye fe mwala mboku bombera pamu so na imwe it's very easy kwata ma structures bonse mulo ba PF kaili para nishi pali ukwikatana tapali discrimination.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Munkonge. Sorry, I have to cut you because of the callers. Hello, please caller, tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
My name is Abdul. Abdul calling from Lusaka.
Yes, Abdul.
Emmanuel na mtotera sana pa finto funa mona fumu achitirere na fumu achitire mairo na lelo. Na muleta abantu babiri abakwete similarity ya bukalamba na experience. Aba bantu babiri tinatemwa bafirisha sana ba opposition in terms of unity. Abantu nabakwata maturity babobu kirafene mwachira bamuno bacha articulate ama figures. Tabachira funda ama figures atale kwanga sense. Nimba ko ngabu ino bachira ama figures babobu nabakwata sana amano. Semwazi na baramwa turetere maruna barafyeshina
ba NS Monsa
emkwai muri sana mano muri abantu babiri abakuru aba ni asset noti ama asset yako bati basa 12 cyalo iyi ni asset ndemye bayire mureka no kumoneka uno mumfofe muntu fari ta security ama issues ora cyabo kurumba kufuta again se munaro mbere ko mayiro kuri baraba mayiro anko Bob Sichinga twachalomba ko ekintu kimo namukwate nchito yako ati mu kite petition ira winya yama elections twapapata taifuri aba aligned na abantu abareteka making sure ati mufunya poli omuntu mweka po muntu uri neutral so that to making sure ati ama elections yaba win monene fuba tukitawa monene fuba tukipo nachela bokana patuma leji fast
Thank you, Wabdu. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from as we begin to take the last calls.
Yes. How are you, Mr. President?
Very well, thank you. How are you? I've got Hon.Robert Bob Sichinga here. Do you have a contribution?
I love that man. You know, Mr. President, what is happening in Zambia, it's a disgrace. Because those, they are saying, concentrate. It's like you get a Mwayabulo Mushiri. Mwaimbo Mushiri. Are you getting me?
Yes, please. We are getting you.
Concentrate. Abantu abakusoleza bafiro kumfofe nala balondolera. Mwabulo Mushiri Mwaimba. Muri gold, muri manganese, muri amaminerals pisana. Ora mwabula mwatwala kufyalo. Bada abantu nga basungulula fintu. Bacha benefit. Then kiri nje bayimba po chashala should say open. Who is going to benefit from there? That man, I don't know how I admire him, Mr. Bob Sichinga. We can do better from minerals, even among minerals to quit our president. We can pay them off within 6 months. We can pay them off the 60 months because we can't get it. Ama dates mwasunkira kubana ati abana bagesalipira inene kwatama ama dates mwasunkira kubana ati abana bagesalipira olo mwana dio apa inde chikaso pede kwenda nama then solve my problem. You are not solving a problem. Nendelanda pachimemba. You are not solving a problem. Bob Sichinga is one of my key factors. He is telling us the truth. Ama minerals here there. Even in Europe, even in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is better the way it is because what would ama minerals what a developed country.
Thank you very much, Wanjebe. Thank you very much. The last caller, let me just take the last caller. Otherwise, Hon.Robert Bob, tumwalala pano. This program excites a lot of people. Yes, Bakola, please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Thank you, Ambassador Mwamba, and my name is Dennis Nyangwe, calling you from Canada.
Yes.
I would say Badatava Bob Sichinga, because for me, I've known him the days of UNIP, MMD, PF, and now we are in UPND. This man has got so much wisdom, and for me, he's part, like he has said, he can play a very good consultant to the opposition as at now, because we need such voices. You know, like if we are going to not put our heads together, then we are not going to win as Zambians. I've liked what he has articulated, and for me, I want him also to open up to the opposition so that he can lead a consultative program to say, guys, let's come together. This is our Zambia. We've got only one Zambia. This is not about who is in PF, who's in SP, but if we work together and come together, this is good for the better of Zambia tomorrow. I've liked what he has said, and he's got so much wisdom, but I'm calling upon him as well. He needs to open up to the people in opposition, because we've got a bigger task ahead of us in 2026, and we need his mind and his wisdom to guide us way forward. Thank you very much, and God bless you, Ambassador Mwamba, for everything that you do for us.
Thank you very much. Hon.Robert Bob Sichinga, I allowed as many callers
Yes.
as possible, but of course we can't take all these calls. But they give us a glimpse of what the nation is feeling
correct.
and what the nation is
That's correct.
considering. Please take
That's correct.
some answers that you can from there.
All right, thank you. Thanks very much, indeed, Ambassador. I think most of the issues that have been raised, we've covered. It's just that maybe some of them did not join us at the right time. Let's look at it this way. What can we do? What can be done? The problems are here. We have identified the problems in our manifesto, Ambassador. We have identified tribalism. We have identified failure to make use of our natural resource endowment that this country has. We have looked at in terms of ownership of the resources, in particular the mining sector, even in the agricultural sector. We've looked at the issues of what that ownership, lack of ownership entails. But also we have the issues of management of the political leaders. The problem that we have with the political leaders is this, that they are not looking at how we can enhance the revenue side of what we're earning. They are looking at it more from the expenditure and what some of the major players within the political circle can gain from it personally, rather than for what is necessary for the state. Many of them have raised the issues of the mine. You cannot do, as a country that is a mining country, you cannot ignore it. You cannot do any solution, you cannot provide any solution without resolving the issues of the mining sector. When I worked for ZCCM owned 68.7% of the shares in ZCCM. We had Class A and Class B shares. The Class B were the ones that were the foreigners and they were the minority shareholders. So that the country had control. How are we selling? The copper that was being produced, or those being sold in raw form, were being sold through MEMACO. You will recall that, Ambassador, and many of the callers that have said, they were being sold through MEMACO, Metal Marketing Corporation. They had a branch in London at the London Metal Exchange. So all the proceeds that were from the sale of copper would come back into the country. You had accountability. Now, if you sell the ownership, you give it to others, the foreigners, so-called investors, where does the dividend go? Who controls the finances? Who controls the sales, the proceeds? It is the foreigners, the people who own the mines. So for us, as the Zambia we have said ownership of the major resources will be under the hands of the Zambians, i.e., where we cannot find the money as individuals, the government must take responsibility. But it's a combination of the government as well as the citizens of this country. First, if there is any foreigners that want to participate with us, we are not going to say no. But we must be able to say to them, yes, this is as far as you can go. You cannot take everything. Otherwise, you lose control. Now, let us take the case that has been raised by one of the callers. And this is the issue of, I think it was Zephaniah, if I'm not mistaken, that was talking about this. Look at it this way. The copper that we produce, the 800,000 metric tons, 820,000 metric tons that we're producing, is sold in the form of either blister copper. Blister is those big lumps that you see on the trucks being carried from the copper belt into the ports, the one-tonners, the big blister copper. In blister copper, you've got all the commodities that you require. The purified copper is inside there. There is gold there. There's silver there. There's palladium there. Some of you may recall that under ZCCM, we had Ndola Copper Refinery. We used to call it the precious metals plant. The precious metals plant was producing gold, silver, palladium. The gold was going to Bank of Zambia. Silver was being used in Kabwe to make ornaments and so on and so forth. So the Zambia we want, our policy is that we are going to emphasize on value addition. We are talking about local, I repeat, local beneficiation. Anyone that wants to participate in Zambia, we are going to say to them, you will participate with us by processing locally. That's what we want, so that we've got a value addition. And yes, somebody was mentioning in amongst the callers, was mentioning that we can be able to repay in 6 months. I don't know about the 6 months, but I think within 6 years, we can pay back these loans. Why? Because when you do the beneficiation, the value that you obtain from there will be between 8 and 11 times more than if you sell copper raw. So when I was Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry, I made an announcement that we will not be sending copper out of our country. We will be processing it locally. And there was Habalu, hey, no, you can't do that. You can't. No, we could do it. We can do it. If it's a government policy, which I was pushing at the time, unfortunately, the person who was our president at the time died, and therefore we could not pursue that. But for me, my position was this, and this is what we are saying in the Zambia we want. We will process our copper, we will produce the final products here so that the value can be 8, 10, 9, 10, 11 times more. And because of that, we can then have the opportunity of getting higher revenues. So instead of the 8 billion we're getting at the moment, we could be getting as much as 8 billion. If you're getting 8 billion and you've got control over the mines, you can be able to pay back the loans. At the moment, you have no chance in hell. Let us take the case of Mopani. By the time the PF were losing office, we owned Mopani 100%. You know that they sold. The Glencoe people said they were selling Mopani for $1. Truthfully, it was not true, because they still wanted to maintain a control. They were doing that because of the criticism they had received and the scandals they had internationally. So that particular point, I think, must be very clear. Ownership, control, value addition are critical. And that is the policy that the Zambia we want is going to pursue. Secondly, we want not just to look at the copper. We just want to look at the mining industry. No. Agriculture alone can be able to sustain this country. But you have to have programs that are successful. You have to have programs that are working. Every year, to buy the maize that is being bought by FRA, they have got to go to the treasury. There is no revolving fund that is self-sustaining, because by the political convenience, each government that has come into office will say, no, we are going to sell to the millers at a lower price than you bought it. Clearly, you're making a loss right from the way it goes. It won't work. It won't work. You can't create a revolving fund when you do that. So our position as the Zambia we want is going to be completely different. We want to put in programs that will be self-sustaining, and we will target, first of all, at import substitution. Secondly, once we've done that, we will increase our production, because the proceeds will come back to the country, and with that, it will increase the buoyancy of the economy and make sure that we are achieving that. There's also somebody else that had, apart from Zephaniah, there was, I think, the issue of not just Glencoe. How about when Glencoe was sold? Where were the proceeds go? Where? This government has never told us where the money went. They said that there was a company from Dubai, all right? So they refused to take this project to Parliament to be debated. The Minister of Agriculture, the so-called decision of cabinet, apparently supported by the Attorney General, said that it was not necessary to take to Parliament. That is not true. Any disposal, anybody who has done finance, anybody who has done accounting, anybody who knows about disposals, what we did by selling the shares of Mopani to a company from Dubai, that in itself was a sale. It was a transfer of shareholding, and therefore that should have gone to Parliament. This government rode rough shoulder, and they did not even consider it. And there was all sorts of statements. No, Attorney General says it's not necessary. If that's what the Attorney General said, if truly that's what the Attorney General said, he was wrong, and he's misled. I am talking to you as an accountant. There are standards that we observe in accounting that are supposed to be observed. And I served in ZCCM as Group Financial Controller, and I can tell you that is a sale. Simple, straightforward. Attorney General, Minister of Finance, President, you were wrong. You should have taken that to Parliament to make that decision. Next.
Thank you very much, Hon.Robert Bob Sichinga.
Thank you very much. Properly, to meet
thank
the
you
needs
very much,
that we
Hon.Robert
have,
Bob Sichinga.
Then we will never meet. We will never comply with that. So
thank you very much, Hon.Robert Bob Sichinga.
That we,
will you, in your make your closing remarks, where to Zambia how do we go to next year's elections?
Yeah.
There are a lot of concerns around the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Can we have a free and fair election?
That's right.
Can this current board of commission
No, we can't.
take us
Yeah.
to elections?
No, we cannot have. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about that particular issue. I think Danis Nyangwe has talked about the issue of help to the opposition, and so on and so forth. As I said, I personally, and I think several of us in the Zambia, we want to be part of the process that helps us to consolidate the opposition, and we're prepared to do that in every way we can, and we're prepared to be led as well. And we said this even right from the word go. So we are doing everything we can. The last 6 months we've spent doing just that. In fact, as I'm talking to you now, we're in the process of organizing a retreat at which we want to get common platforms which solve Zambia's problems in the case of having a common approach to the solutions that we're looking for. And somebody was talking about we should petition the results. What we have got at the moment, the Zambia ECZ, Electoral Commission of Zambia, clearly it does not inspire confidence that we are going to have a free and fair election going forward. They have to do a lot of work in order to convince us all. I'm talking about not just political parties, I'm talking about the citizens, that this is what they are going to be able to acquit themselves well. So we shall make sure that there is the monitoring from the churches, from the NGOs, must be intensified. And obviously we'll invite people from the region. I'm talking about SADC, we're talking about AU, to make sure that this is fair. But the fairness of these elections starts from now. The registration of the voters, the issues of the issuance of NRCs, the issues of the basis upon which this is being done must be, we must make sure that it's done correctly. So yes, we need a united alliance, absolutely correct. It's absolutely imperative. But at the moment, the UPND has destroyed PF. Simple, straightforward. Look at what is going on within the PF. So obviously we can't sit on the table without the PF. But where are the PF representatives? We need them to be on board. We need them to be willing to sort the situation of the leadership. Now, because of the death of the President Lungu, we have got a disarray because of the work that UPND has done to destroy the UPND. So we are doing the very best that we can to bring these parties together. And it is our sincere hope that we'll all be willing to acknowledge that we're stronger together than having to go as individual political parties. But also it's necessary that in all these political parties, the people that can be able to offer that assistance are accommodated, as it were. So in conclusion, I would like to say that we are very, very keen, and we have not just folded our hands. We are deliberately working day and night to make sure that this national unity is there. But also we've got specific solutions which we've got here in the manifesto. We hope that our colleagues will be willing to adopt a lot of the issues we've talked about: agriculture, value addition, ownership, corruption, tribalism. We want those issues resolved. We also want the constitution to be changed right from as a part of the agreement. Immediately a party gets into office, or the group gets into office as a united party, in terms of a united group, we must tackle the constitution immediately to sort out the various lacunas or lacunae, and also the various subsidiary laws that are impeding this. Freedom to information, okay? And the issues of the cyber security nonsense that the current government said they were going to solve. Instead, they've just made it worse. Nobody is going to be free to talk on the airwaves if this kind of situation continues in the manner that it's doing. So in summary, Ambassador, thank you so much indeed for having us. We will do our part. We will be very keen to make sure that we play our part to consolidate the opposition, to make sure that the solutions, that the consolidation is not for purposes of individuals gaining from it. It's to make sure that Zambia has a solution that are going to overcome the issues of tribalism, the issues of corruption, the issues of favoritism, the issues of loss of control over the mines and revenues, and also paying friends that sponsored the political parties at the time that they were coming into office, and saying that now you can have this. The issues of oil. Right now, there's a shortage of diesel in the country. How? How has that happened after 4 years of government and saying the failures are here? The issue also of power. You cannot have growth without power. So these are the policies that we are enunciating in our manifesto. Unfortunately, the time is not sufficient for us to go through them individually. But we invite everybody. Ambassador, you are one of them, and many others that are calling that they should join the Zambia we want. Yes, we can be able to solve these problems, because in the meantime, PF is being killed by the very existing of their very existence is threatened by the UPND. We all know that. They will not come to you and say, yes, that is what we're doing, but that is what is taking place. So I would like to sum that by saying that we are going to play our part, Ambassador. We are willing to do our part. We have done our homework. We are ready in terms of pushing this alliance and cooperation in the opposition. So I would like to thank the callers and everybody else for what they have said to us, and we've taken note of all the comments that have been made.
Thank you very much. Dear viewers, that was Hon.Robert Bob Sichinga, who hosting is in the Leadership Council of the Zambia We Want. They are electing a leadership amongst themselves who will lead the Zambia We Want party by end of September. We must have a leadership from there, and we hope then as a team they can join other members of the opposition to attempt to form a united front to face the UPND. Hon.Robert Bob Sichinga took time to walk us through the state of the economy, the state of the opposition, the critical, like, you know, the silver, the family silver we have of the mining sector. Because of his immense experience there, he spent a lot of time on the mining sector and what can be done to really make this jewel a beneficiary to our economy, which it is not at the moment. So we'd like to thank you, and for the many callers, thank you very much, and for the messages that you've been sending. I'm so sorry that we couldn't take all the calls, but even now the phone is still off the hook, is still ringing, but we applaud you for the interest. You are really concerned about the state of our country, and you want all of us to help one another in emancipating Zambia. So, Hon.Robert Bob Sichinga, I'm so grateful. Thank you for your help once again and for coming to the program. God bless you, and we will see you next time.
Government has initiated talks with the family of former President Edgar Lungu to amicably resolve the matter of his burial. President Hakainde Hichilema says the government team is in South Africa holding discussions with the family.
The most important thing is that we hope to resolve it. Our team is there. They're engaging the family. And any support, Your Honor, we can get from family members such as yourselves would be appreciated.
The government of the Republic of Zambia has taken note of the Constitutional Court of South Africa's ruling concerning the burial of the sixth President, Dr. Edgar Lungu. On behalf of the government, we want to thank the court for its timely consideration of the matter. While the government respects the court's decision, it remains committed to working with Dr. Lungu's family to reach an arrangement that takes into consideration the family's wishes and interests, but also takes into account the rights of the government. Our position is unchanged. The late president deserves a dignified funeral in keeping with the stature of his office. We want to thank citizens for their understanding at this time and for avoiding inflammatory comments. Now is the time for all of us to keep the Lungu family in our thoughts and prayers as we mourn the loss of the former president. Thank you.
Amitapendwa ya vintu ifisume vyote kula kuivukisha anatepotimo wimbo watemenwa katongi abazunga batita katongi nakula kuivukisha kateka aibukubuna kapona neseko syove pameso yangu ama umebaya iyaba maume iyaba maume kateka wa bantu Mama,